Welcome back to the double crochet Easter bunny tutorial. Here in part 2, we're going to crochet the ears and legs and then assemble it all together. If you haven't watched part 1 yet, be sure to watch that and then come back to this video because we are going to jump right in. So next up is the ears. We're going to work them in rows back and forth, but the start is a little bit goofy because we want to make a point. So we're going to start by putting a slip knot onto our hook, and then I'm going to chain 2. So 1 and 2. Now in the second chain from my hook, I'm going to work 2 double crochet stitches. I personally like to work in this back nub of that second chain from the hook, but you can work in the side if you prefer. But anyways, in the second chain from the hook, regardless of where in that chain you're working, we're going to work 2 double crochet for row 1. So this is 1, and then a second double crochet into that first chain. Now for row 2, we're going to start with an alternative turning chain in our very first stitch. So this will also count as my first double crochet. And then I'm going to also work a double crochet in this same spot. So we're putting 2 stitches in that first stitch, and then in the second stitch, I'm going to work 2 double crochet. So this is my first double crochet, and then put a second double crochet into that same spot. For row 3, we're going to turn our work. The first stitch gets that alternative turning chain, and that will count as our first double crochet. Then in the next stitch, I'm going to do a double crochet increase and work 2 double crochet into the same stitch. So this is my first double crochet, and then I'm going to put a second double crochet into the same spot. In my next stitch, I'm also working a double crochet increase where I'm going to work 2 double crochet into the same stitch. So that was 1, and this is 2. And then in the last stitch of the row, we're going to put just 1 double crochet into that stitch. Now for rows 4 through 10, they're all going to be worked the same way as each other. We're going to start off by working an alternative turning chain in the first stitch. That's also going to count as our first double crochet. That'll leave me 5 stitches left in the row, and I'm going to put 1 double crochet in each of those remaining 5 stitches. So we'll end up with a total of 6 stitches for rows 4 through 10. So after this stitch, I'll have 2 more double crochets to work. This is my second to last double crochet, and this is my final double crochet. So basically just work double crochet evenly across, and that first double crochet was really the alternative turning chain. I'm going to repeat that for rows 5 through 10, and then I'll show you row 11. So I just finished up row 10, we've got a little something like this. Moving on to row 11, I will again start by turning my work, and in the first stitch, you guessed it, we're working that alternative turning chain, and that will count as my first double crochet. Then across the next 2 stitches, I'm going to work a double crochet decrease. I'm going to yarn over, insert in my first stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, then yarn over, go to my second stitch, yarn over and pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, I'll have 3 loops on my hook, yarn over, pull through all 3. So that's a decrease. Then in the next 2 stitches, we're also going to decrease. So I'm going to work those 2 double crochet together, the same way we did just a moment ago. And then in my last stitch, I'm going to put a double crochet. So it's as if we worked 4 stitches in this row. And now for rows 12 through 13, we're going to work 4 double crochet evenly across. Of course, that first double crochet is really the alternative turning chain. So that's going in my first stitch there. And then I'll put 1 double crochet in each of the 3 stitches that remain. So this is 2, and this is 3. Repeat that for row 13, turn my work. The first stitch gets an alternative turning chain. Then 1 double crochet in each of the 3 stitches that remain. And this is my last one here. So now for row 14, we're going to work around the edge of the ear we've just created, but this is also where things get fun and perhaps a little tricky, is because we're going to work around a pipe cleaner to give the ear some flexibility, support, and posability. Now, I don't have a white pipe cleaner, I'm using this brown one. It blends in well enough, and I'm okay with a little bit of the darker color peeking through. And I believe this is a 12-inch long pipe cleaner. It's not quite long enough to go the full length, so you can combine pipe cleaners, or if you can find longer ones, that works too. I'm just gonna stick with the 12-inch and I'll show you my process. So whether your pipe cleaner is longer than mine or not, we're gonna start by folding the pipe cleaner in half and pinching it to create a nice point. And then I'm going to hold it by my work and figure out about where I need to start working around the pipe cleaner. So the basic idea of row 14 is we're going to work 27 single crochet along this side, 3 single crochet at the top to make the point, and then 27 more single crochet on down to the bottom. And for a lot of those stitches, we're also going to work around the pipe cleaner. So let's start by chaining 1. And because we have 13 rows and 27 single crochet we're going to work, we're pretty much going to work 2 single crochet at the end of each row, and we'll stick a couple extra up here at the top. There's no necessarily right or wrong way about this. We're just going to go to the side of our row. That there looked like a good spot to work, and work a single crochet. So that was my first one, and I'm going to put a second single crochet on the side of this row as well. So that's 2. So you want to keep track as you go. Try to keep them evenly spaced. At this point, I'm going to start working around my pipe cleaner. So this looks like a good spot to enter. I'm going to keep my pipe cleaner there, kind of resting on the edge of my work. And work my single crochet right around the pipe cleaner. So we've just barely caught it. We'll do the next stitch, go into the crochet fabric, and around the pipe cleaner. So I'm up to 4 stitches. Again, I'm putting roughly 2 stitches at the end of every one of these rows. So this right here is row 3. I'm going to put 2 single crochet along the edge of that row right there. And again, where specifically you work on the side isn't that important. Just try to work neatly and evenly all the way to the end and end up with 27 single crochet stitches. So I'm going to keep working this all the way to the point. So I've worked 23 of my 27 stitches so far. If your ear is getting a little bunchy and your crochet piece seems a little bit longer than your pipe cleaner point, that's okay. We can adjust that later on. So I've got to fit 4 more stitches in here. So this is 24, 25, 26, and 27. So now at the very peak, the very point here, I'm going to work 3 single crochet into the same spot. So this will be 1, 2, and 3. So that gets me up the one side. We're going to repeat the process on the way down the next side. And if you need to, you can pull a little bit on the ear, and that'll kind of slide some of the slack down off of the pipe cleaner. But the process is going to be the same. 27 single crochet down to the other end. So we'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I've got 4 more stitches to go to get to the end here. So this is single crochet 24, 25, 26, and right at the very end, 27. So as you can see, I kind of worked beyond the pipe cleaner. Popped out a little bit. We can just kind of poke that right back through there. That's the ear, and now I am ready to fasten off, and you got it. We're leaving a nice long tail for sewing everything together. The last thing we need to learn how to crochet is the legs, and of course we're going to make 2 of these. I'm again starting with a slip knot on my hook, and I'm going to chain 3. And then I will slip stitch in the first chain to form a ring. Once more, I'm going to use the alternative turning chain as my first stitch, and I'm going to work into the center of this ring here. And you might have noticed I like to wrap my tail of yarn around the hook as well so I can work over that. So that's my first stitch. That's going to count as a double crochet. And then I'm going to work 11 more double crochet into the ring. So I'll have a total of 12 stitches. So this is my first double crochet, my second double crochet, third double crochet. I'm going to work around until I've worked 11 double crochet, and we'll have a total of 12 stitches. So now that I've worked a total of 12 stitches, I'm going to slip stitch in the top of the first stitch to join the round. So moving on to round 2, we're again going to start with the alternative turning chain, and that's going to count as our first double crochet. So working that stitch right here. And then I have 11 stitches left, and I'm going to put 1 double crochet in each of those 11 stitches. So that's 1, this is 2, this is 3, 4, and I'm going to work all the way around until I get to the start of the round. So I've worked my 12 double crochet total for round 2. I'm going to slip stitch in the top of my first stitch to finish up round 2. Moving on to round 3, again we're starting with the alternative turning chain. And then we're going to do some decreases. So that's going to count as my first double crochet. Then across the next 2 stitches, I'm going to do a double crochet decrease. So decreasing across these 2 stitches. And then the pattern that repeats the rest of the way around is we're going to work a double crochet and then a decrease. So here's my double crochet. And now for my decrease. So yarn over, insert, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, insert in the following stitch, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 3, and then repeat. Double crochet, decrease all the way around. So finishing up round 3, I just need a slip stitch in the top to join the round. Now rounds 4 through 9 are all worked the same way. We're going to start with an alternative turning chain as our first stitch, and then in each of the 7 remaining stitches, we're going to work 1 double crochet. So basically we're just working evenly around for these rows. So that's my first double crochet, second double crochet, third double crochet, a fourth double crochet, fifth double crochet, sixth double crochet, and my 7th double crochet. So if we count the 7 double crochet stitches with the alternative turning chain from the start of the round, we end up with 8 stitches. And then I'll just slip stitch to join the round and repeat that 5 more times for rows 5 through 9. So I'm finishing up round 9 here. I've just got a couple more double crochets left to go. This is my final stitch. And to finish up round 9, I'm just going to slip stitch, and then we will fasten off. Again, when I fasten off, we're going to leave a nice long tail for sewing it on. At this point, I'm going to stuff it. So I cut a handle off the bag, and I'm going to stuff this on down into the foot and the leg. Again, stuff as much or as little as you want. And this is a leg for my rabbit. I'm going to need to make a second one of these. So now we have all of our pieces crocheted and ready to be assembled. Let me kind of show you how this is all going to go. We're going to have the feet on the bottom, the legs, got arms on the side, bunny tail around back. The cheeks are going to go on the face here with the nose right above them. And then the 2 ears up at the top. You might also have noticed the pom-pom. We're going to use a big pom-pom for the nose and then 2 littler pom-poms for the eyes. We'll glue those on later. And I also have some pink embroidery floss to add extra details onto the arms and legs. So let's start off with one of the easier parts to attach, and that is the tail. This is also good because it'll help establish the back of the project, which will determine the front of the project. Now here is my seam where I joined my rounds. It's a little hard to tell on camera, but it's pretty faint because of that alternative turning chain, but that is my seam. So I'm gonna make that be the back. And I'm going to put the bunny tail just kind of wherever I want. You can go a little lower. I'm going to go like right about there. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4. So right around row 5 is where I'm going to attach my bunny tail. And I have a large tapestry needle here to help me out with this step. And basically I'm just going to go around some stitches on the bunny and then loop through the tail. Go through some stitches on the bunny. And then go through the tail. And I gotta be honest, I'm not a big fan of sewing these kinds of things together, so I'm a little haphazard when I sew them together, but that is a bit of the beauty of this, is you don't have to be super exact. It'll still turn out very cute. And then I'll just kind of loop around here, tie some knots. And then with this extra piece, I'm just gonna run the needle inside the bunny and out somewhere else. Hide that tail of yarn, not the bunny tail itself, on in there, and then just trim whatever sticks out. So now we have our bunny tail attached. Let's work on the face. So the face, of course, is gonna go opposite the bunny tail, and we have these two cheeks that we have to sew on. We're gonna sew them on pretty similar to how we did the bunny tail, and these are gonna go, see where we have like the increases and decreases here? Kind of right there towards the bottom of the head. Now this piece I'm gonna just tuck on in there, and then the long tail I'll thread onto my needle. So to do this, I'm gonna make sure I'm opposite from my tail so things line up nicely. And I'm gonna kind of just hold it in place and sew all the way around. So while holding it in place, I'm gonna go through the bunny, and then loop around part of the cheek. Then go through the bunny a little bit over. Loop around the stitches of the cheek. I'm basically just tacking it down with some very uneven stitching. But hey, it gets the job done. And of course, if you don't get it in place right the first time, you can always detach it and sew it on again. So I'm just working all the way around to sew this piece on. And it's probably a little hard to see because everything is all white yarn, so it's probably all blending together. But hopefully you're getting the idea. Looks a little goofy right now, that's okay. But I've gone all the way around. I like the position that it's in, so I'm gonna tie some knots and then run the excess yarn through the body of the bunny. So run that on through there and out somewhere else and trim. And I'll repeat that process for the second cheek. All right, so here's what I've got. It looks kind of strange, but then once you put the little pom-pom there, then it all kind of comes together. So we'll take care of gluing this on in a little bit. Same with the eyes, but let's move on to the arms. So the arms are gonna go on the side, and I'm going to attach my arms between rows 11 and rows 12 on the body. So I count from the bottom, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. I'm gonna sew the arms on right there, kind of in between those two rows. So again, we're using the needle to help sew this on. And what I'm going to do is, we haven't actually sewn the arm shut yet, but I'm basically gonna pinch it in half, and I'm gonna run through stitches on both sides of the arm, and then I'm gonna run through the body. And again, this is not neat. You can also flip the arm up. That might help make it a little bit neater. So go down. So I've gone through the body. Now I'll go down through the top of the arm, kind of fold the arm up, and then go through the body, and then up through the arm. Again, I am very not careful at all when I sew crochet things together, just because when I try to be careful, it turns out just as bad. So I'm like, you know what, we're gonna take a more free-spirited approach to this. But I'm basically sewing it on there. You know, you can kind of flop forward like that. Just get it on there securely, looking the way you want. And then once we've got it in place, I'm gonna run through and tie some knots here, and then I'll hide the tail in the body by running it through the inside. So let me finish this up and attach the arm on the other side. So I've got my arms attached. I think this one's a little bit further back than I meant for it to be, but that's okay. The feet I'm gonna add kind of towards the front of the body, so that way then I can, you know, pose him with his legs like crisscrossed or whatever. So basically that means I'm going to attach between rows 2 and 3. So this is 1, 2, 3. I'm going to attach them right around here, both towards the front. So kind of like that. So this is going to be really similar to how I did the arms. And I didn't leave a long enough tail, so this is getting a little bit tricky, but we'll make it work. This is why we leave very long tails when we know we're going to be sewing things. There we go, that ought to do it. Again, I'm going to tie it off. Here's the bunny rabbit so far. I feel like I need to keep putting the nose back because it just looks scary without it. So, I can crisscross the legs, or if I have them on a shelf, leave the legs hanging over. The last thing to attach is the ears. Now, when it comes to the ears, I'm purposely going to have these ears kind of floppy, so I'm going to attach them a little bit farther back, and then they're going to hang down, basically, but then I can kind of, curl them up in the back with the pipe cleaner. They'll hang a little something like that. So I'm going to position it where I want, and then just start looping through the ear and through the head of the rabbit. Go through like right there. And go over, a stitch on the ear. Up through the head of the bunny. Again, this is very imprecise and kind of haphazard, just because that's how I am with these kind of projects. I'm just holding the ear in place and then stitching wherever it kind of lines up. And then somewhere on the back side here, I'm going to tie some knots and then feed the end on down through the rabbit. So one ear attached, one ear to go. So now that everything is all sewn together, and I also wove in the ends from the ends of the ears, let's go ahead and add some details to make this extra cute. So I'm going to start with some embroidery floss, and I'm basically going to put little like that on the feet. It'll make more sense when you see it, just to like show the toes, I guess, basically. So I'm going to go with the first foot. I'm going to tie the pink embroidery floss on here. I'm just using my hook to get it on through. I'm just going to tie a couple knots here at the end. And this tail piece I will tuck to the underside. And then I'll put this onto my needle. Basically, I'm going to do 3 small little lines. So we'll go up to like here is where I want it to go in, and then my next one's going to start over a little ways. So the important thing is when you run your needle through, think about where you want the needle to come out. So think about where you want it to go in and where you want to start the next one. So that's going to make, got a little tangled there, the first little line there. Then we'll go through right about here is where I want it to end, and then again think about where I want it to come out. We'll go over a little ways. Run it on through, and then we'll do one more right over here. And I'm going to bring the last one out down by the bottom. Right about like that. Okay, that honestly isn't very even, but you get the idea, I hope. So I'm here at the bottom. I'm just going to tie a knot again, and then we'll run the excess floss and tuck it inside. Alright, so we've got the cute little toes on here. I gotta be honest, I am not very good at sewing. My second attempt was better. First one looks a little, off. But I mainly showed you that so that way it can hopefully inspire you. And if you are a better sewer than me, then you'll be able to add this cute detail to your bunny as well. And of course, if you want to skip that step, that's totally okay too. So the last thing we need to do is give this little critter a face. I'm going to use some glue to do this. I have to resort to Elmer's glue. I don't have my tacky glue available right now, unfortunately, so I'm gonna go with this, but I would recommend using like Aleene's tacky glue, something like that. Elmer's glue will work, it'll just take a lot longer to hold. So I'm just gonna load it up with glue and pop it on there. And then same with the eyes. And I probably shouldn't be doing this upside down, but I'm doing it upside down so y'all can see versus my hands blocking everything. Again, putting on some glue, glue it in place. And if we spin it on around, that's about what the face looks like. One final detail you can add to your bunny rabbit if you want is to cut some short pieces of stiff fishing line, and you can just poke them into the cheeks. You know, I try to bend it just a little bit to get it straightened out just a little bit more. Back and poke it right down into the cheeks there, and give him some little whiskers. Of course, it's totally optional, but it's kind of a cute extra touch. And here is the finished Easter bunny. Here's a few thoughts on the final results. At this point, y'all might be realizing why I don't normally put faces on my amigurumi, and it's always the eyes. I can never get the eyes quite how I want them. This time, I think my rabbit ended up a little bug-eyed, and I think I could have avoided that if I had placed the pom-poms just a little lower on the face. Another idea would be to use buttons because those would lay flat. But even with the eyes being just a little bit goofy, this still turned out to be a cute piece of Easter and springtime decor. Another thing of note, I really wish I had used longer pipe cleaners. The ears are so fun to pose and they really add to the expressions on this project. If the pipe cleaner didn't fall short of the length of the ears, I would have had even more options for posing. But like I said, I'm happy with how this project turned out, and I hope you enjoy it too. If you did enjoy this tutorial, I'd appreciate if you left a thumbs up on the video and subscribe to my channel. I regularly post crochet and craft-related content, and I'd love for you to join in on the crafting fun. But that wraps up today's project. Happy crafting!